I used to think silence was safe, that if I kept still long enough, nothing could fall apart. But it turns out, even quiet things break. They just don't make a sound when they do. The house doesn't creak anymore. It used to. One groan in the stairwell, two clicks in the baseboard when the heat kicked on. I would pause, wait for it, but now it doesn't. It's learned I won't be surprised. I get up without thinking. Right sock, then left. Shirt folded over the chair, same as yesterday. Coffee grounds already in the filter. I do that the night before so I don't have to think. I hate the smell of it now. Tastes like cardboard and burnt memory, but I still drink it. Mornings are clean. I like that. No questions, nothing to answer. The kettle whistles. I turn it off before it gets loud. The sound of boiling is enough. There's one mug in the cabinet, black. Handle chipped where the glaze cracked years ago. I could replace it. I've got a box of spares in the garage, but I don't. This one knows the routine. The chair scrapes across the tile like it always does. I sit. I sip. The coffee's already cold by the time I notice I'm holding it. There's comfort in things that don't change. They don't ask. They don't need. And that's what mornings are. Still, predictable. Quiet enough to forget I'm the only one here. The toast always burned at the end. Not on purpose. I just forget it was in there. She used to call it my signature. Said it like a joke, but I knew it meant something else. We never really fought, not the way people think. No plates thrown, no doors slammed, just quieter meals, longer silences. We got good at making noise around each other, the clink of forks, the hum of the fridge, so we didn't have to fill it with words. I used to watch her hands more than her face. You learn things that way. How the grip on a mug says more than a sigh. How the way she folded laundry said she was already halfway gone. Turns out, you don't have to fight to end something. You just have to stop looking at each other. There's this thing fire does near the end when it's not hot anymore, just light. Soft, flickering. You think it's still burning, but it's already spent. That's what we were. We didn't go out with smoke, we just dimmed. I don't keep photos out, not out of anger, just don't need the reminder. They're in a drawer, face down. Top left corner of the dresser. I open it when I'm looking for batteries, and that's enough. I know people think the hard part is the leaving. It's not. It's the staying after the fire's already gone out. That's what burned. Not her, not me. Just the part that used to glow. There was a call on the scanner the other night. House fire, 2 blocks over from the old station. I still keep the volume low, out of habit, just enough to catch the address. I didn't move, just sat there at the table, fingers around the mug, heat long gone. I used to run toward that kind of thing, didn't think twice. Smoke meant go. Sirens meant someone needed something fixed right now. That used to make sense to me. You don't ask questions in a fire. You break down the door. You carry out what matters. You leave the rest to burn. Back then, people called it bravery. I didn't argue. But the truth is, it was easier than staying home. Easier than sitting across a table, watching someone grow colder by the month and not knowing what to say. She used to ask me if I was ever scared in the job. I told her no. I lied. I wasn't scared of burning buildings. I was scared of quiet kitchens, of saying the wrong thing, or worse, saying nothing and still being wrong. Funny thing is, fire announces itself. The crackling, the smoke, the heat on your neck. It wants to be noticed. It begs for it. Love doesn't do that. Not always. Sometimes it just leans back in a chair and looks at the floor. Sometimes it hums to itself in the next room, and you don't know whether to walk toward it or leave it be. I've got this burn on my left palm. From years ago, roof collapse on a duplex off Maple. Should have let it fall. I didn't. Still hurts when it rains. That's how you know it was real. That's how you know you didn't walk away. People think fire is the enemy, but at least fire makes itself known. Feelings don't do that. They wait, they sit still, they watch what you don't say. And that's what I was scared of. Not dying in a fire. Living through the quiet after. Todd asked if I ever get lonely. He was sanding down a cabinet door, arms covered in dust and sweat, like the wood might give up its secrets if he just worked it hard enough. I was stacking shelves behind him, nothing delicate, just bulk orders of hinges and paint trays, and he didn't even turn around when he said it. You ever get lonely in that house by yourself? I didn't pause, just said, I like the quiet. Simple. Like I'd said it 100 times. Maybe I had. He grunted, nodded, kept sanding. That was that. but on the drive home, the words stuck in my teeth. The quiet used to bother me at first, that high-pitched nothing ringing in the walls. You start to think you're hearing things, a voice, a laugh, footsteps that don't belong to you. I used to keep the radio on low just to keep it from settling in. Now I don't even turn it on. The silence grew into me, or I grew into it, not sure which. It doesn't judge, doesn't expect, doesn't sigh when you sit down with your boots still on. It just waits, gentle and patient and empty. But if I'm being honest, and I guess I am, or else I wouldn't be saying any of this, I don't like the quiet. The quiet likes me. It knows I won't interrupt it, won't break the peace, won't ask for more than the sound of the kettle or the scrape of a chair across tile. She used to hum, barely audible when she moved through the house. Not a song I recognized, just sound, presence. Now when I hear humming, I know it's the fridge, or the pipes. There's no music here anymore. Just the soft, dull rhythm of a man who doesn't leave drawers open, who locks the door even though no one ever knocks. I told him I liked the quiet. But what I meant was, the quiet doesn't ask anything, and I'm tired of being someone who doesn't have anything to give. I spent the afternoon in the garage, sorting through the tools. Not because they needed it, everything was already functional, but because I needed the motion, the snap of a drawer sliding closed, the cool metal of a wrench in my hand. I labeled a box plumbing, another electrical, even though I knew exactly where each thing lived. It was a small ritual, the kind that keeps the edges of the day from fraying. Objects don't ask questions. They don't pull away when you reach for them. You fix a thing once and it stays fixed, or it doesn't. Simple enough. People are different. They come undone. Feelings twist loose like rusty nails. They don't hold still long enough to be tightened down. I lined up the screwdrivers by size, the hammers by weight. The order felt like control, a kind of quiet armor. If I could keep this tidy, maybe I could keep the rest of it at bay. The noise behind the walls, the silence that hollows out the rooms. There was a rhythm to it, the way the tools fit back into place. It reminded me of the way Lace's humming filled the kitchen when she cooked. Steady, small, a presence I didn't have to chase. But here, now, it was just me and the cold light filtering in through the garage window. I locked the toolbox before I went inside. A wrench doesn't lie to you, a nail won't leave, but people do. I sat on the edge of the bed, the sheet still warm from where Lace had left it last. Not that it mattered now. No one had been here for months. The room was quiet except for the hum of the fridge down the hall. No TV, no radio. Just the steady tick of the clock on the nightstand. I looked at the empty side of the bed, smooth and untouched. No rumpled blankets or shoes kicked off in a hurry. Just space, like a question without an answer. I don't miss being married. That part ended slow enough, like watching smoke drift up and vanish. But I miss being missed. That feeling someone might glance at the clock, wonder if I'm running late, or leave a second cup of coffee waiting. It's not about her anymore. It's about the quiet that fills the space when she's not around. The absence of someone noticing if I'm still here or not. That kind of presence isn't loud or messy. It's just there. I reached for my mug on the nightstand, the one with the chip in the rim, her favorite, though she never said why. I poured myself a second cup, even though I didn't want it, just to fill the silence a little. I don't need her back. Not really, but I guess I miss someone looking at the clock and hoping I'm okay. That's all. I heard her before I saw her. Something like singing, but not quite. A hum threaded with words she only half remembered. The kind of sound people make when they don't think anyone's listening. Then came the boots, scuffed, red ones, thudding up the stairs like they had somewhere to be. Box after box followed, none of them labeled. Just mess stacked on more mess. One split open on the landing and spilled fabric, bright stuff like someone tore apart a circus tent. She laughed. Loud. Careless. Like the sound didn't have to earn its place. I watched from the kitchen window. Not on purpose. I was refilling the kettle, but I didn't move. Just stood there, hand on the handle, waiting for her to disappear. She didn't. She was all motion, arms full, hair wild, talking to herself while she wrestled a chair through the front door. She kicked her heels off before they even made it inside, left them on the porch like she was claiming the place. A red mug sat on her windowsill by nightfall. Chipped. I kept to myself. Always had. That was the arrangement. Upstairs was upstairs. My world was tools, folded laundry, coffee left to go cold. She was color. She was noise. She was too young to be that tired, but too tired to fake it. And the thing that stuck with me most, she didn't knock, didn't introduce herself, just moved in like she belonged. She was loud, she was barefoot, she was not my problem. And yet, I was still standing there, watching. It started in the walls, or maybe the vents. Hard to tell in an old house like this. Everything carries. Pipes creak, floorboards settle, and now, her voice. Not even proper singing. Just a hum that dipped in and out of a melody like it didn't care about being right. Soft sometimes. Other times louder, like she forgot herself. The first night I heard it, I turned off the TV, thought it was some appliance giving out. Walked room to room, checked the fridge, the hot water heater, even unplugged the kettle just in case. But it was her. Upstairs. Moving around, humming like someone who didn't think twice about being heard. I tried not to mind, tried harder not to notice, turned the volume back up, folded towels with more noise than necessary, but the sound threaded through all of it. It wasn't just that she was loud, it was that she was there. I'd gotten used to quiet, wore it like an old shirt, stretched, soft, a little too thin in places. I told myself I liked it, but with her humming, that silence started sounding like something else, like no one waiting, like no one wondering if I was still breathing. I caught myself standing at the base of the stairs one night, pretending to check the window lock. I listened, didn't hear her, felt something I didn't want to name. Then it started up again, soft and steady. By the third night, I wasn't annoyed. I was waiting for it. I saw it the first time I went out to take the trash. The gate hanging loose, swinging wide like it didn't give a damn about keeping anything in or out. I muttered something low and went back inside, but the next morning, same thing. Wide open. No clack of the latch, just empty space where the lock should be. She must have forgotten it again. Or maybe she didn't care enough to close it. Either way, it stuck in my head. So one evening I grabbed my old toolbox from the closet, hands moving before my mind caught up. I knelt by the gate, fingered the latch, loose. A quick twist here, a tightening there. Nothing fancy, just enough to click. No thanks. No glance up from the window. No note. Just silence. I walked back inside with that quiet satisfaction that feels strange because it's not about the gate. It's about letting in, keeping safe. I fixed the latch. She never noticed. But I did it again the next night anyway. I noticed it the night I was heading to bed. The porch light, that weak glow she patched up with a roll of tape, was out. Dead dark. I stood there a second looking up at the bare socket. Could have been a blown fuse or just a bulb gone bad. I guess she hadn't gotten around to changing it, or maybe didn't care enough. It was late. I wasn't about to knock and make a fuss, but something about the dark porch, it didn't sit right. Not just for me, but for her. Safety, that's what I told myself. Practicality. So I went back inside, found a spare bulb in the kitchen drawer. Old habit. Firehouse rules. Always have a backup. I climbed the steps, careful not to make noise, unscrewed the dead bulb, swapped in the new one. No thank you. No window opening above. Just the quiet street and my own breath. When I walked back down the stairs, I didn't look up, but the bulb glowed warm behind me, and I let it. I heard it first, somewhere between the kitchen and the stairs. A string of curses, low and sharp, muttered just loud enough to catch me. From upstairs, from her place. Curiosity got the better of me. Quiet as I could, I slipped up the stairs, stopped outside her door. Didn't want to knock. Didn't want to interrupt whatever she was wrestling with. But I peeked through the crack. There it was, the sewing machine, pulled apart like some kind of puzzle. Screws, metal bits, thread tangled like dead vines. She was hunched over it, face tight with frustration, hands fiddling with a piece that clearly wasn't cooperating. I stood there for a minute, feeling that old itch under my skin, the one that tells me something needs fixing. But this wasn't just any machine, and she wasn't just some random neighbor. Later that night, after the house was quiet, I found my own sewing machine tucked in the garage. Old, scratched up, but it worked. I cleaned it off, wrapped the cord neat, and carried it upstairs. I left it on her porch, right by the door. Folded a small note and tucked it under the handle. Firefighters patch things too. That's all I wrote. I didn't wait to see if she found it. Walked away before I could talk myself out of it. Because this wasn't just about a broken machine, it was about starting to care without saying a word, about showing up, even when I wasn't sure I knew how. It was late. The kind of late where the house settles, the fridge hums, and the world feels like it's holding its breath. I was rinsing out a mug, hers actually. She'd left it out by the mailbox one morning, chipped rim and all. Figured she wasn't coming back for it, so I brought it inside. Habit, maybe, or something else I wasn't ready to name. That's when I heard it again. Soft, familiar, humming. Not loud, not the kind that fills a room, just enough to slip through the vents, like steam rising through floorboards. Not a tune I could name, just a sound that carried something steady with it. Focused, calm. It stopped me. Not dramatically, just enough to make me still, hands dripping over the sink. She was working again. I could picture it without seeing. Shoulders relaxed, something pinned between her fingers, maybe a spool rolling across the table. The old machine I'd left her wasn't much to look at. Heavy as hell, clunky in the way things were built to last. But it worked, and now she was humming. Not because of me, I know that, but maybe not in spite of me either. I didn't need a thank you. Wouldn't have known what to do with one if it came. What I needed, what I realized standing there, mug in hand, cold water running, was that quiet hum filling up the house again. It meant she was okay, that something in her had settled, that maybe, just maybe, what I'd done had landed somewhere soft. I dried the mug, turned off the light, and I stood there a little longer than I needed to. She didn't knock, didn't leave a note, but she was humming again. That was enough. It was early, sun not all the way up yet, street still asleep, birds just starting in the trees. I opened the front door like I always do. Slow, quiet, more habit than need. And there it was, a muffin. Still warm, wrapped in a brown paper napkin, edges folded carefully. No container, no plate, just sitting on the top step like it belonged. There was a note too, folded in half, no envelope. For Mr. Fix-It, muffin that singer back to life. Cute, tidy handwriting, loopy letters. Playful, but something about it too neat, like someone trying to smile through a locked jaw. I held the note longer than I meant to, read it twice. Then again, the muffin was blueberry, or maybe blackberry. Dark, sweet, a little bitter. You could tell she didn't use a mix, flour clinging to the bottom. I waited. Sat out there with my coffee, same porch, same cracked tile under my heel. Figured maybe she'd come down, laugh, make some half joke about owing me breakfast. She didn't. Curtains upstairs didn't move. Porch light flickering, not out, just deciding. I sat with the muffin, ate it slow. It tasted good, but I couldn't tell if it meant anything. Saw her 2 days later, or maybe 3. Hard to say. The days started slipping by without asking me first. I was coming back from the truck, some busted fuse panel under my arm. She was heading out, boots half-laced, scarf wrapped quick around her neck like she'd remembered the cold too late. She looked good. Still tired, but good. "Morning, fireman," she said. The nickname landed softer than she meant. I think it was supposed to be a joke. She winked, kept walking. Her bag bumped her hip with that low thud of someone carrying too much and pretending not to. I nodded, said nothing, mostly because I couldn't figure out what would have made sense. Her laugh came right after. Punctuation. Quick. High. Clipped. Didn't reach her eyes. She smiled like it didn't cost her anything. But people don't smile like that unless it does. I watched her go. Long enough to see her pace change once she hit the sidewalk, like she was late, or like she didn't want to think. Reminded me of the last time I saw my ex. Really saw her. At that diner on 8th. She smiled like that too. Real pretty. Real empty. Told me she was fine. That she hoped I was too. Then she left half her sandwich. Never called again. I went inside. Set the fuse panel down without fixing it. Stood there a minute longer than I meant, hand on the counter. It wasn't the nickname, not the wink. It was her eyes. They looked past me, like she knew I was there, but not for her. Not really. Or maybe she just hoped I wouldn't see too much. Thing is, I did, and it looked a lot like something breaking behind glass. The old pipes creaked above me, the kind of sound that tells you someone's pacing, or maybe just shifting too much weight in one place. I was under the sink, fixing nothing. The phone started ringing upstairs. One of those old ringtones, fake cheerful, belonged in a purse with expired gum and receipts she never threw away. Then the thud, not a drop, not a stumble. A throw. Hard. And then nothing. I stayed crouched, hands still on the wrench even though I'd already tightened it. Could have gone up, knocked, said something casual like, "Everything all right?" But I didn't. That's the thing about fire, it tells you when to run in. Heat, smoke, a glow on the wall. You don't think, you just move. Feelings don't do that. They hang in the air like smoke you can't see, and if you go in blind, you might come out burned anyway. So I sat there, under the sink, wrench in hand, listening to the silence upstairs. Could have been anything. Wrong number, bad news, memory, didn't matter. I didn't go up, didn't ask. Some messes you don't mop up. You just learn to live beside them. Wasn't planned. These things never are. Laundry at midnight. Could have waited until morning, but I couldn't sleep, and the washer doesn't care what hour it is. She was already there when I opened the door. Sitting on the little bench by the folding table, socks in her lap, hoodie pulled over one knee like she didn't want to be seen, but didn't want to be alone either. She looked up. No surprise in her eyes, just tired. Not the kind sleep fixes. "Guess it's laundry hour," she said. Soft. "Guess so," I said. The dryer hummed low, steady, filling the room without trying. Lavender and heat. Her detergent, not mine. I never bought the scented kind. She did. I loaded my clothes slow, let the hum cover the silence. Then she held something up. A sock, one of those thick, fuzzy ones, pink, with a little lemon stitched on the toe. Small, really small. "Guess this one didn't make it," she said, pinching it between her fingers like it had shrunk just to spite her. I half smiled. "Did it start out that size?" She huffed a real laugh this time. "Nope, unless I've been walking around with doll feet." And just like that, for a minute, we were fine. Her elbow brushed mine as she reached across to fold something. Neither of us moved right away. Then it hit, that shift, the one you feel before it happens. She pulled back, stood too fast like she remembered something she didn't actually forget, grabbed a warm bundle of towels and stuffed them into her basket without folding. The dryer door swung open too hard, banged once, echoed. "I'll finish upstairs," she said. I nodded. Didn't stop her. Just watched the sway of the basket against her hip as she left. That thud again. Different kind this time. I stood there with one warm towel in my hands thinking, what did I say wrong? Maybe nothing. Maybe that's what made it worse. The mailbox clanged as I headed up the steps, just like every afternoon. Mrs. Hartley was out front, cane in hand, leaning like it was a third leg. The kind of woman who knows every inch of the block and everyone's business too. "Your little upstairs girl seems sweet," she said, flashing a knowing smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Bit young for you, though, isn't she?" I laughed, easy, but mostly to keep it light. "Yeah, well, she keeps me on my toes." She didn't push, just a little nod like she'd said enough. I walked past, but her words lingered. Quiet spaces I wasn't ready to admit. Small talk. But now, every time I looked up at the window where lace stayed mostly hidden, I heard it echo louder. "Bit young for you." I caught myself watching the way she moved, always careful, never rushing, like carrying something heavy she didn't want anyone to notice. I wasn't a fool. I'd felt the distance she kept, the way she smiled and pulled away, the way she held back when it got close. Maybe Mrs. Hartley was right in a way. But what she didn't say, that was the weight. The things left unsaid between us had started to feel heavier than the words. And I couldn't decide if that weight was mine to carry or hers. The bass was thumping down the hall before I even got close, loud enough to rattle the lace curtains at her window. Felt like it was trying to drown out the whole building, or maybe just the quiet between us. I stopped outside her door, knocked once, then again, just to be sure. Nothing, no footsteps, no voice, just that stubborn, steady beat pushing through the thin walls. I pressed my back against the hallway wall, arms crossed, that kind of silence that fills a room when someone's there but won't answer, like a wall built between us, thicker than drywall. I stayed long enough to feel the vibration in the floor, then I turned and walked away. There's the kind of silence you choose, and the kind that chooses you. I left her music behind me, loud and unreachable, and stepped back into my own quiet. I went back to the quiet. The kind that doesn't ask anything, the kind I thought I liked. Dinner was a one-man show again, just me and the chipped mug on the counter, the one with the faded blue rim. Same thing as always, beans and toast, nothing fancy. I ate slow, chewing more on the silence than the food. The sink had a drip I'd been meaning to fix for weeks. Usually I'd grab the wrench right away, find some sort of distraction in the work. But that night I left it alone, just listened to the steady tap, 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 quieter than her music, but it didn't fill the room any better. I didn't look up when I heard her footsteps pass overhead. No glances at the ceiling, no waiting to catch a glimpse of her shadow by the window. She wasn't asking for me, and I wasn't asking anymore. I kept the porch light off and closed the door a little slower than usual, giving myself extra time to adjust, folding my hands and waiting for the night to pass. Maybe that was safer. Maybe what I needed. But the quiet, it wasn't peace. Not really. Just the kind of silence that holds its breath, waiting for something to break. It was raining. Cold, sideways rain that didn't announce itself. Just steady and mean, slipping inside my collar before I realized I should have brought a jacket. I was halfway back up the walk when I looked up, more out of habit than anything. Her light was on. Sewing lamp, soft amber glow. Made her window look warmer than the rest of the building. She was there, sitting at the little table by the glass, still. Head down, one hand resting on a mug, probably the green one, too heavy in her hand. At first, I thought she was just tired, worn out from whatever kept her upstairs, but then she moved, a tilt of the shoulder, and I saw it. The way her body shook, small, rhythmic, like something trying not to fall apart. She wasn't sobbing, no sound, no drama, just quiet tears slipping down her face like they had nowhere else to go. And she didn't wipe them, didn't flinch, didn't shift, just sat there, like maybe she thought if she stayed still long enough, they'd stop on their own. I didn't move either. Hand on the doorknob, half turned, porch behind me, rain still coming down. I didn't know what I was waiting for. Maybe for her to look up. Maybe for something in me to push forward. But she never looked, and I never moved. She cried like someone who'd been holding it in too long, like a flood behind the walls, finally leaking out. I'd seen people break before, in fires, in hospitals, after phone calls they didn't expect. This was different. This was someone who didn't know she'd been seen. I stood there long enough for the rain to soak my sleeves, then let the door close behind me. Didn't dry off, didn't turn on the light. Just sat at the edge of the bed, listening to the drip from the kitchen sink. Some people cry like a leak. Others, like it's flood season, and they've just stopped fighting the tide. I went back to the radio, the kind that murmurs in the background, filling empty spaces without asking much. The kitchen floor needed mopping, not because it was dirty, but because it gave me something to do, something small, mechanical, something I could control. I found the mop, the bucket, and got to work. Water swirled gray, dragging grime. I focused on the rhythm. Dip, ring, press, push. Quiet, but it felt like movement. The porch felt colder, like it held the shape of something that used to be there but had slipped away when I wasn't looking. I didn't turn on the light. Door closed a little too tight. I thought about the space between us, not just distance in feet or time, but something heavier. Thick air, heavy with what neither of us said. Whatever had almost been there wasn't mine to claim. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I sat down later, mop forgotten, and just listened. Rain had stopped. Silence settled like dust, still but never quite clean. It wasn't bitterness, not really. More like a slow folding away of hope or possibility or whatever it was I thought I was holding on to. I didn't want to push, didn't want to break the quiet that had grown between us. Even if that quiet was a kind of distance. Sometimes you keep your hands in your pockets and watch the porch light fade because it's easier than chasing something you're not meant to catch. I saw her before I heard her, stepping down the stairs like she was running late for something that didn't wait for her. Early morning, street holding its breath. Quiet enough that the creak of old wood sounded louder than it should. She glanced my way. Just a second, a small, polite smile. The kind you offer when you don't have the time or energy for anything more. Lips moving automatic, practiced. I watched it happen like I was seeing something I'd been missing all along. Her eyes, they didn't smile. Not really. Tired, deep tired. Past sleep and rest. I didn't say a word, didn't reach out. Let her pass, like some things aren't yours to hold. She smiled like it didn't cost her anything, but people don't smile like that unless it does. I got home later than usual, street quiet, distant cars humming, leaves scraping in the wind. There she was, lace on the worn wooden steps, barefoot, wrapped in that old blanket she always draped over the couch. Not cold enough for it, but she had it pulled tight around her shoulders like armor, feet bare against rough wood, nails chipped, one still painted dull red. No music playing, just the night settling around her. I stopped short, almost turned back inside. Something about the way she sat, still not looking for company, made me pause. Not fear, respect. Like I wasn't supposed to interrupt whatever she held in that quiet. I didn't rush in, didn't break the calm she'd found, just stayed. Watching, breathing in the smell of damp wood, the faint scent of whatever she'd cooked earlier. Something was different. Not broken, just quieter than I'd ever seen her. And for once, I didn't try to fix it, just stayed. I sat down beside her, careful not to close the space too much, but not far enough to seem like I was just passing through. The wood creaked beneath us, old, tired, but still holding up. We matched each other's stillness, shoulders relaxed but alert. Our bodies didn't speak, but the silence between us wasn't empty. It was thick, charged, like the air before a storm, only softer. I didn't know what she needed. Hell, I wasn't even sure what I needed, but I knew I wasn't leaving. Not yet. Not this time. Her blanket shifted slightly with the breeze, brushing against my jeans. The night held its breath with us. No music, no words, just the quiet we'd both been avoiding. I caught the faint scent of coffee from earlier, the cool shift in the air, the way her bare feet pressed lightly against the grain of the wood. It was a small, steady thing, just being here. And for now, that was enough. The silence stretched between us like a long breath held and not quite released. I wanted to say something, anything to cut through it, but the words felt unnecessary. Sometimes saying less means staying more. Her blanket brushed against me again, and I noticed how close our hands were, just inches apart but not touching, as if we were waiting for permission neither of us was ready to give. The night was full of small sounds, the rustle of leaves, the distant hum of a car, the faint creak of the porch beneath us. Nothing loud, nothing urgent. Just enough to remind me we weren't alone, even in the dark. So I stayed still, letting the silence be something other than empty. A kind of waiting, no pressure, no demand, just presence. That was all she needed, and maybe all I could offer. No fixing, just staying. And then it slipped out, soft and sudden, like a breath I hadn't meant to release. "I don't like quiet," I said. "I like your quiet." The words hung there between us, no fanfare, no meaning added, just truth. I caught myself, surprised at how much weight they carried, how fragile they sounded coming from me. She didn't look at me, just pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders, steadying herself against something. I wasn't sure if it was the quiet or what I'd just said. It wasn't something I usually did, laying my feelings out like that, even in a small way. But it felt right, necessary. For once, I wasn't trying to fix anything or fill the silence. I was just showing up. And that was enough. Her hands moved under the blanket, fingers tracing the worn fabric like it was something steady she could hold on to. She didn't meet my eyes, just kept looking down, somewhere close but out of reach. "Yeah, same," she said. Her voice was soft, not a confession, not a surrender, just a quiet agreement whispered in the dark. It wasn't tired, the way voices get when they've been fighting too long. It was real, like she was setting something down she'd carried for too long, and maybe, finally, it was okay to set it down. There was no rush to say more, no need to fill the space. The wall between us didn't crumble all at once, but it wasn't the same wall anymore. Just a crack, small enough to let the light in. I wanted to speak, to bridge the distance, but I didn't, because this moment was enough, quiet, steady, like the kind of peace I thought I'd lost. She pulled the blanket tighter, and the silence shifted, no longer heavy, just waiting. We both were. Then, after a long pause, she broke it. Not with something heavy, just a small thing. "Cinnamon," she said, her voice low. "I started putting it in my morning coffee. Thought it'd make waking up less bitter." I nodded. Never got into that. Too much fuss. Just black for me. She smiled, small, quick, like a flicker of light in a dark room. "You sound like my old man." I could picture him, gruff but steady. And I thought about how little things like cinnamon and coffee were the kind of safe talk you have when everything else is too much. "Early mornings," I said. "Before the world gets loud, that's when I used to run calls. Quiet, mostly, except for the sirens." She hummed something, half a tune, maybe just the sound of settling. She pulled the blanket closer, like a shield, but also like comfort. We didn't say much after that. We didn't have to. The conversation was a thread, simple, steady. Cinnamon, coffee, early mornings, little pieces of a life neither of us rushed to explain. For the first time in a long while, it felt like we were just two people, side by side, not trying to fix anything, just being. I reached over almost without thinking and tapped my fingers lightly against hers through the fabric. She didn't pull away, didn't move, just let it be. And that, maybe, was enough. After a while, she spoke again. "I didn't leave for anything fancy," she said. "Not for a wild story or some big change." Her words came slow, measured. It was noise, too much noise. At home, the kind that fills the walls and never lets up, like a weight you get used to but don't notice until it's gone. She shifted. The blanket slipped. For a second, her eyes softened, unguarded. "So I left," she said. Not running away exactly, just stepping out of that noise, finding a quiet I could stand. Not perfect, but quiet. It wasn't dramatic, no big reveal, just a simple truth. Hanging there between us, I felt it, how much it meant without needing to say more. She looked up then, just a little, and I caught the faintest flicker of relief. Not from me, just from saying it, out loud. I didn't answer. I never was good at fixing silence with words. So I just stayed watching, listening. Sometimes that's all you need. After a while, I cleared my throat. The words caught on something rusty inside me. "I used to believe in forever," I said, quiet. Like a confession I wasn't sure I meant to make. Then, softer still, then it left. No details, no blame. Just that empty space left behind, the kind that settles in your chest like cold ash. She didn't say anything, just shifted under the blanket. The fabric whispered against the wood, saying it didn't feel like breaking. It felt like letting go. And there she was, quiet, steady, not fixing, just being. For the first time since all that ended, I didn't feel alone in the silence, and that was enough for now. I shifted slightly, my sleeve brushing hers. Our shoulders touched, light, accidental, but it stayed. A quiet weight, steady and slow. The night air carried a coolness, but where we leaned in, it felt warmer. Not fire warm, but the kind that comes from someone being near enough that you don't have to fill the silence. Time stretched thin, the porch creaking under shared stillness. I wasn't reaching for anything. No words, no explanations. Just this. Her breath was soft, steady. I could feel it between mine. The blanket slipped, but neither of us moved to fix it. No pressure, no rush, just trust. The kind that settles slow and sure without fanfare. For once, I didn't want to be anywhere else. We both just wanted a place to land. Didn't know it'd be the same one. That thought sat easy, like the night itself. Quiet, solid without pretending. Not the fire I used to chase, not the noise I once thought I needed. This was different. It wasn't about saving or being saved. It was about showing up, staying. The kind of steady no one needs to speak aloud. I didn't say it to her, didn't have to. But inside, I felt it folding around me. This was where I was becoming someone new, someone who could hold stillness without fear, someone who finally knew what staying meant. The kitchen was quiet before sunrise, the low hum of the radio, one light over the sink casting long shadows across the counter. My mug sat where I left it, rim still damp from last night, and next to it her mug, the chipped one with the faded blue pattern. I reached out, almost without thinking, and touched the handle. It was warm. I didn't move it, didn't make a fuss. Her mug was there, always there now. No words, no announcement, just that small, quiet claim, like a place saved at the table. I didn't feel invaded, I felt chosen. 2 mugs sitting side by side before the day began. Not much, but everything. Later, in the garage, the air smelled of oil and old wood. I was bent over the workbench, fiddling with a rusted hinge. No radio, just the scrape of metal and the ticking clock. And there it was again, her mug, the same chipped one, steam curling from the tea she'd left, slow and steady. She never mentioned it, never asked if I saw. Just left it there. A quiet promise folded into the day. I didn't bring it up, didn't thank her. I just drank it, slow, while I worked. It wasn't about the tea. It was about knowing she thought of me enough to leave it. That's how she showed she cared. Not with words, but with small things done without fuss. And maybe I was finally learning what that meant. The sewing machine buzzed low and steady in the corner later that night. She sat there, bent over her work, the fabric folding and unfolding beneath her fingers like a language all her own. The lamp cast a warm pool of light, catching the threads like sparks. I didn't say a word. Just sat across from her, hands on my knees, letting the hum of the machine fill the space between us. She started humming then, not the half tune from before, but something softer, deeper, like she was singing for the room. Or maybe for me. She never asked me to stop watching, never looked up. It was like she was letting me in, one quiet piece at a time. And for once, I wasn't afraid of what that meant. Just sitting there watching her work felt like a kind of waiting, but not the kind that asks for change, the kind that holds a space, safe, quiet, enough. The sewing machine buzzed low, steady, a quiet rhythm in the corner of the room. She sat bent over her work, the fabric folding and unfolding beneath her fingers like it spoke a private language I wasn't meant to learn. The lamp beside her cast a warm pool of light, soft and low, making the threads catch like tiny sparks. I didn't say a word, didn't move. Just settled into the chair across from her, letting the silence stretch without trying to fill it. My hands rested on my knees, still, my eyes on the slow, sure way she worked. The hum of the machine filled the spaces where words might have been, steady and unhurried. Then she hummed, not the shy tune from before, but something softer, deeper, like she was singing just for the room, or maybe for me. She never asked me to stop watching, never even looked my way. It was as if she was letting me in, one quiet piece at a time. And for once, I wasn't afraid of what that meant. Just sitting there watching her work felt like a kind of waiting, but not the kind where you expect something to break or change. More like holding a space, safe, quiet, enough. I was tightening the loose screw on the old kitchen chair, the one that always leaned a little to the left when she walked in. She didn't say anything at first, just came up behind me and handed over the box of screws I'd asked for last week. Thanks, James. That was all. No teasing, no nicknames, just my name. Plain, soft. It caught me off guard more than it should have. I looked up at her. She was watching me like I wasn't just fixing something in her house, but like I mattered enough to be called by name. Really called. Her voice, the way it softened on the edges of my name, cracked something open. Not loud, not sudden, just steady, like a hand reaching out in a quiet room. I didn't say anything back. Just took the screws, nodded. But inside, something shifted. That one word, James, carried more weight than any thank you she'd ever given me. It wasn't about fixing the chair anymore. It was about not needing to fix me. We were folding laundry, her shirts, my work clothes, quiet, slow. The basket between us sat half empty, half full. I handed her a shirt, and our shoulders brushed, light, accidental. Neither of us moved away. Her skin was warm against mine. No tension, no hesitation. Just that steady nearness, calm as breath. The sound of the fabric folding, the shuffle of the basket, it all felt like something solid, something that stayed. I thought maybe it was nothing, just two people in an afternoon, but it lingered, that warmth, settled in like a promise neither of us needed to say aloud. We kept folding. The basket got lighter. The quiet didn't. Just two people making space for each other, one shirt at a time. I found her scarf tucked in my coat pocket one afternoon, must have slipped off her shoulder when she came in, worn soft, frayed at one edge. I could have handed it back the next day. I didn't. For days it stayed there. On cold mornings, I'd feel the fabric against my palm, a small, steady weight. Not the warmth of fire, but the quiet kind, the kind that lingers. Sometimes I'd pull it out, feel the threads between my fingers and think, it's something of hers, a piece of where she'd been, something I could carry without saying a word. When I finally returned it, she didn't speak. Just took it back slow, careful, like it meant something neither of us had to name. The silence wasn't empty, it held something steady. Warmth that didn't need a flame, just this, soft, near, enough. The couch dipped when she sat beside me. Same spot as always, middle cushion, not too close, not too far. I didn't move, neither did she. The radio played low, just sound without edges. Our knees touched. Bare skin, hers. Denim, mine. Not planned, not avoided. I used to count the seconds in silences like this, wait for them to crack open into awkwardness or distance, but now nothing broke. Her hand rested near mine, palm down, fingers marked faintly from thread and fabric. I thought of the hum of her sewing machine. The same rhythm seemed to live in the air now, quiet, unspoken. The lamp caught on her jaw. She blinked slow, like the day was easing off her shoulders. And me, I just sat there, not holding my breath, not waiting for it to end. It'd been a long time since I'd been inside a silence that didn't ache. Maybe this was what it meant to stay. It was late, the kind of night that felt wrung out, like the air had already done its part. She sat beside me again, legs tucked under, a blanket around her shoulders. The radio hummed some old song, slow, brush drums, soft guitar. Then, without a word, she leaned in. Her head found my shoulder, not heavy, not shy, just there. Her hair brushed my jaw, smelled like something plain and warm, familiar now. I didn't move, not toward, just enough to let it happen. Years ago, I would have tensed, tried to read it, tried to name it, but not now. Now I just breathed. She exhaled once, slow, like maybe my shoulder had become a place to rest, something she didn't want to explain. And I didn't need to. The moment didn't need to be marked. It just was. Quiet. Close. Honest. She was at the stove, barefoot, hair tied up with a stretched band. The pan hissed. The air smelled like garlic, onions, something staying. I leaned against the doorframe, mug in hand, heat cooling between my palms. Her sweater slipped off one shoulder. She didn't fix it. I didn't look away. Nothing about it was special, but it stayed. No walls, no bracing, just the quiet trust of being there. She moved like she knew I was watching, and didn't mind. Looked over once, gave the smallest nod. No smile, no question, just that. And it settled deeper than any kiss ever had. No edges, no performance, just her, just me, just now. For the first time in a long time, I realized I wasn't afraid of quiet, because she was in it with me. She hummed again, not from the hallway this time, but here, beside me. Evening light stretching across the couch, her shoulder brushing mine. The sound was low, steady, not for anyone to hear, just there. I could feel the rhythm of it settle into me. Funny how something so small could feel like home. Later, lying in bed, I watched the ceiling fan turn. Slow, steady, the blades cutting the air like a heartbeat I'd only just started listening to. The silence felt full, not empty anymore, not something to hide behind, just steady, quiet, present. Maybe that was enough. The fan kept turning, and for once, so did I. I heard her footsteps upstairs, soft at first, then steady, crossing the floor like they belonged there. I didn't mean to listen, but I did, not because I was waiting for something, not out of habit or some leftover edge from years of alarms and smoke. No, this was different. There was a kind of ease in my chest I didn't expect. Not a smile, not the movie kind, not the song kind, but something quieter. Something that settled in me, like a weight being lifted just enough to breathe easier. Used to be I'd listen for fires, for sirens, or the crackle of something breaking loose, the kind of sound that tells you to move fast or move out. But now, those footsteps weren't a warning. They were a tether, a reminder that someone was here, that this house wasn't just my shelter anymore. So I stayed still, letting the sound fill the room the way it always should have, like it was meant to be part of the quiet, part of the slow turning of the ceiling fan, part of the breath I was still learning to keep steady. That sound, her footsteps, felt like home. I looked around the kitchen before I got up. The mug she'd left on the counter, chipped on the rim, same as the one I kept in the truck. The throw blanket folded neatly on the couch, not tossed aside like before. And the tea bag, still wet in the trash, forgotten in the quiet. The room didn't feel empty. It felt held, like she'd been here just long enough to leave something behind that wasn't gone. Not the kind of quiet that presses in on you, but the kind that fills the corners with a kind of company. I used to measure silence by what was missing. Noise, people, chaos. Now I was starting to hear what it held. The way her mug caught the light even when it wasn't in her hands. The way the blanket kept its shape, like it was waiting for her to settle under it again. It wasn't about her being here or not. It was about what stayed when she wasn't, something I didn't expect to notice, something I didn't know I needed until now. The room wasn't empty anymore. It was quiet, but full. I used to think love meant defining things, naming them. You had to know exactly what you were dealing with. When I was married, everything had a title: wife, husband, plan. Even when things weren't good, at least I knew what role I was supposed to play. But this, with Lace, I don't know what this is. I don't know what she wants from me or what I'm supposed to give. And for once, that's fine. I thought I'd need a roadmap, a set of rules, some kind of explanation to make sense of this. But I don't. I'm not trying to define it. I'm just trying to stay close. I feel it when I'm near her. in the way she hums while she makes tea, in the way she leaves the kitchen light on when she goes to bed, in the way she never rushes anything. I spent so many years trying to fix things, to make them right, or better, or safe. Firefighting, relationships, all of it. But this isn't something to fix. It doesn't have a title, and that's what makes it real. No plan, no finish line. Just quiet, just small. Something that is. I used to hate not knowing. Now, with her, there's peace in it. Something that doesn't need to be fixed or labeled or explained. I don't know if she feels the same, but I know this. It's good, and right now, that's enough. Love used to sound like a transaction, something you gave, a piece of yourself, an explanation, an answer. But now, it's here in the quiet. It's her at the kitchen table, sipping tea. It's me at the counter, cleaning the mug she left behind. It's the space between us, just wide enough for both of us to exist in. No pressure, no name, just breath. It's enough to be near it, to let it breathe, to not need any more than what we have right now. Lately, I've noticed the small things, not the big moments, the small ones. When I'm rinsing a dish, or stirring coffee, or folding socks, I catch myself smiling. Not because something changed, just because she's here. It's strange to realize it's not even her presence that does it. It's the space we've settled into, the way her hum fills the background, the way the house feels different now. Silence used to be heavy, now it's light. This morning I was at the sink, scrubbing a plate when I caught myself smiling, really smiling. Not aware of it, just there. My jaw doesn't ache anymore, my shoulders aren't tight. I let the water run, rinse the dish, and smile, for no reason at all. It's not a big smile. It's the kind you don't notice unless you really look, like when you're folding socks and realize your hands aren't shaking, or when you sit with tea and don't need the TV, the clock, or the next task. You just sit, and you don't want to be anywhere else. I even smiled folding socks the other night and thought it's either love or a stroke. But either way, I'll take it. The light upstairs was still on when I passed the staircase, just a sliver of warmth through her doorway. I stopped at the bottom step, then flipped the hall switch without thinking. The bulb flickered to life, low, steady, not bright enough to fill the house, but enough to touch the quiet. I didn't say anything. Didn't need to. I just wanted her to know that I was here, that even if we weren't in the same room, I wasn't gone. The light wasn't a message, not really. It was just something to hold on to in the dark, something steady enough to catch the edge of her. Maybe she saw it. Maybe it made her feel less alone. I like to think it did. I leaned against the railing, quiet, letting the hum of the house fill the space between us. That small glow, hers and mine, felt like a tether. A way of saying without words that neither of us was walking away. Not yet. I used to think love meant fixing everything before it broke. Plans laid out like blueprints, promises loud enough to echo, fireworks, marriage, kids, all the steps you're supposed to take to get to safe. But now it's different. It's showing up even when nothing's broken. It's sitting in the kitchen with her, watching steam rise from a half-finished cup of tea. It's the light left on upstairs, not because I have to, but because I want her to know I'm still here. It's not loud, not a gesture, not a speech, just being. Steady, quiet. Maybe that's what love looks like after you've seen enough fires. When you don't need the flames anymore, just the warmth, enough to hold on to. And somehow, that's enough for me now. I close my eyes and listen. The house holds her like it always has, quiet except for the soft shuffle of her steps above. It's not the silence that used to press in, heavy and empty. It's full now, alive in the kind of way that doesn't shout, just stays. Her steps are slow, deliberate, the kind that don't need an audience. I can almost hear the faint creak of the floorboard near her door. I think about all the years I trained myself to hear alarms, the sharp sounds of things breaking or burning. Now, I hold on to something softer. Her footsteps. The rhythm doesn't demand anything from me, only that I be still and listen. And for once, I don't want to fix it, don't want to name it. I just want to be near it. The house isn't quiet anymore because I'm not. I used to listen for alarms. Now, I listen for her walking across the floor. I step into the kitchen before the sun's fully up. The kettle's just starting to whistle, slow, patient, like it knows the day's in no hurry. Light spills through the window, soft and gray, touching the edges of everything like it's waking up too. Her mug's on the counter first, same chipped rim, it's worn in, carried through mornings and quiet afternoons, just like her. There's a faint lipstick stain at the lip. Not a note, not a sign, just presence. I remember when it was only my mug here, those empty mornings where silence was all there was to share. Now her mug sits next to mine again, the chip like a small scar we both recognize. I fill both cups, careful and slow, and lean against the counter, letting the quiet settle around me like something that finally fits. I reach into her mug, careful not to disturb the mark, and find a folded piece of paper tucked inside. I pull it out slow, like it's something delicate. Her handwriting, clear, unhurried. It reads, "Didn't mean to stay this long. Don't plan on leaving, though. No promises, no speeches, just truth, small and steady, an anchor in the middle of our everyday." I let the paper rest between my fingers a moment. No rush, no flurry, just that quiet certainty I'd been chasing without knowing it. Then I fold it back and slide it into the drawer with the mugs and spoons. Not hidden, just kept safe. Some people leave flowers. She left a note in a coffee mug. Same thing, really. The hallway was dim, but morning had crept in sideways, touching the picture frames and baseboards. I didn't need much light. I've walked this house enough times in the dark. I heard her before I saw her, bare feet, soft tread. She didn't speak, just reached out as she passed. Her fingers brushed the crook of my arm, then her mouth touched my shoulder, right above the old burn scar I forget about until winter. She didn't linger, didn't explain, didn't need to. By the time I turned, she was already halfway down the hall, lost to the light. I stood there a moment, breathing, not reading into it, not bracing for what came next, just holding it. Some things don't need to be fixed or named, just kept, like a note in a drawer or a kiss over an old wound. It started quiet, like it always does. I was rinsing mugs, one hand steady under warm water, the other resting on the counter. No rush, no noise chasing me. Then I heard it, faint, almost folded into the sound of the faucet, her humming. Same tune from the first week, light, wordless, a little off-key. I never learned its name, but I know its shape, the way it curls around the quiet, fits into corners like it was made for them. Back then, it felt out of place. A woman humming in my hallway like she didn't already have one foot out the door. Now it doesn't echo. It fills. She was upstairs, maybe folding towels, maybe doing nothing at all. Didn't matter. I shut off the tap and stood there, water dripping from my hand, listening. And it hit me. Soft but full. This house used to be so goddamn quiet. Not peaceful. Just empty. Now there's humming in the walls, and I don't need to follow it, don't need to name it. It's enough just to hear it, and know she's still here. Still humming. There was no grand moment, no speech, no sudden music, no slow turning look across a crowded room. That's not how it went. It just added up, quietly. A scarf draped over the back of the kitchen chair, the one she never wore, just left there like it belonged more to the chair now than to her. One of my old flannel shirts, folded in the laundry basket, not hers, not mine anymore either. Shared, I guess. Claimed by time. The tea towel hanging crooked by the stove. She stitched a tiny heart into the corner months back. Didn't say a word about it. I noticed the thread before I noticed the shape, and I never straightened it. That's what it was, all of it. Not a proposal, not a label, nothing wrapped in ribbon, just two mugs, rinsed and drying. A humming voice upstairs. A drawer with a note that didn't ask me for anything, only told the truth. She stayed, and I did too. It used to be the quiet that got me. Too much of it. Like standing inside a burned-out room, all the noise gone, but the heat still there. I'd walk through the house like I was checking for damage, listening for what wasn't there. Now I don't check. She still hums, still leaves her mug out, still drives me a little insane. But it's a different kind of fire now. One I'm not afraid to hold.